The first rays of sunlight hadn't yet touched the sky when a sharp knock jolted me awake. My daughter's voice called from the doorway, too bright and insistent for the hour. Amy, wake up, make some coffee and set the table, hurry. I blinked against the early morning haze, my mind half dreaming, half shocked. Who demanded orders before sunrise? I rubbed my eyes and pulled on my robe, trying to shake off the lingering fatigue. As I moved toward the kitchen, the faint aroma of brewed memories clung to me, the quiet mornings I had once cherished, sipping tea while planning the day. Now even this small ritual felt invaded. My daughter, however, didn't notice my hesitation. She moved with a peculiar precision, arranging the cutlery and napkins herself, casting sharp glances at me as if timing was a crime. Emmy, come on, faster, she said, her tone playful yet oddly commanding. I poured the coffee, careful to get it just right, but my hands trembled slightly. There was something in her voice, a subtle edge I hadn't heard before. It wasn't mere impatience. It carried a weight, a message unspoken. I tried to brush it off. Perhaps I was overthinking. After all, mornings can be chaotic, and children can be demanding. But then she looked at me directly, eyes sharp, almost calculating, and said something that froze me in place. Amy, I think it's time you understand a few things about this house. About us. Her words, soft yet piercing, hung in the room like a storm cloud. I froze mid-pour, heart thudding against my ribs. What could she possibly mean? Was this an innocent comment or the start of something far more unsettling? I set the coffee down on the table, every instinct screaming that this day would be unlike any other, and just as I glanced at her, trying to decipher the expression in her eyes, she smiled, innocent, yet unreadable, and said, Amy, you won't believe what I just discovered. I swallowed hard, a cold shiver running down my spine. Something told me the morning was no longer just a breakfast routine, mini cliffhanger. Something had shifted. And I had no idea that the words she was about to speak would change everything I thought I knew about my family. The aroma of coffee filled the kitchen, but I barely tasted it. My daughter's gaze was fixed on me, unnervingly serious for someone so young. Amy, I need you to do something for me today, she said, her voice unusually steady. I paused, spoon halfway to my lips. What is it, Beta? It's so early. Maybe later. I tried to mask the rising unease in my voice. No, Amy, it has to be now. Promise me you'll do exactly as I say. Her insistence sent a ripple of tension through me. Something in her tone suggested this wasn't a simple request for help around the house. I nodded cautiously, trying to keep my curiosity under control. All right, what is it? She leaned closer, lowering her voice so that it was almost a whisper, yet somehow every word struck like a hammer. Amy, I want you to sign the house over to me. The words hit me like a thunderclap. I froze mid-sip, coffee trembling in my hand. My mind spun. Did she really just say what I thought she said? Beta, what are you saying? The house. This is not yours to claim, I whispered, trying to steady my voice. She looked at me, eyes glinting with a strange mix of determination and something darker, almost calculating. Amy, I've thought about it. You work so hard, but it's time I take my place. Don't make this difficult. I felt my chest tighten. How could my own daughter, the girl I had raised with love and sacrifice, ask for something so shocking? The words didn't make sense. I had always protected her, fought for her happiness, and now it felt like betrayal was staring me straight in the face. Beta, this is your home. Why would you ask this of me? I asked, voice trembling. Her expression softened for a moment, a faint, almost cruel smile. Amy, you've given me everything, but now it's my turn. I just want what's mine. A cold knot of fear and suspicion formed in my stomach. Something was off. Why now? Why this sudden demand? I sensed layers beneath her words, secrets I wasn't yet privy to. As I looked into her eyes, I realized this morning wasn't about coffee, or the table, or even the house. It was about control. It was about power. And she was testing me. Before I could respond, she added, almost casually, don't worry, Amy. I'll explain everything soon. But you'll see. You'll understand why I'm doing this. Mini cliffhanger. I stared at her, heart pounding, sensing that whatever revelation she had planned would shake the very foundation of our family, and I had no idea I was about to uncover a truth that could change everything. I sat at the breakfast table, staring blankly at my coffee, the warmth failing to reach the chill creeping into my bones. My daughter's words replayed over and over. I want you to sign the house over to me. I had raised her with every ounce of my strength, sacrificing sleep, time, and even my own comfort. How could she even think this was acceptable? But as I looked at her, carefully balancing the delicate teacup in her hands, I realized her smile didn't fully reach her eyes. There was something calculated, something deliberate. Memories flashed in my mind, moments I had once dismissed as ordinary. The way she lingered near the family documents, pretending to help, while I thought she was simply curious. The small questions about my finances, phrased innocently, now seemed like probing, testing, planting seeds of knowledge. It wasn't just the house. She had always been quietly observant, watching how decisions were made, learning how to maneuver without drawing attention. I remembered the time she subtly redirected guests' attention away from me during family gatherings, always ensuring she remained the center of praise. At the time, I thought it was simple teenage pride. Now, it looked like preparation. I sipped my coffee, my hands shaking slightly, realizing how little I had noticed, how easily my love for her had blinded me to the shadows in her intentions. "You're quiet, Amy," she said, breaking my spiraling thoughts. Her voice was soft again, almost tender. "I know this seems sudden, but I promise, it's for the best. You'll understand soon." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the seed of doubt had been planted. How could someone so close, so loved, suddenly demand something so monumental, so personal? The morning sunlight spilled across the floor, highlighting the fine cracks in the polished surface of our kitchen, the same cracks I had ignored in our family for years. The house seemed almost symbolic now, beautiful on the outside, yet hiding fractures beneath the surface. A part of me wondered, had I been blind all this time? Had my devotion blinded me to her true nature? And then another thought struck, a gnawing suspicion that the house wasn't the only thing she had been watching, the only thing she had been planning. There had been whispers, subtle manipulations I hadn't noticed until now. "Oh, you shouldn't worry about that bill. I'll handle it, Mom. Don't bother with the documents. I'll take care of it." All seemingly harmless gestures. Until now. My heart tightened. I realized the morning wasn't about coffee. It wasn't about the table. It was about control, testing, and revealing power in the most shocking way. She met my gaze, calm, collected, yet somehow unreadable, and I knew this was only the beginning. Mini cliffhanger. I had no idea that the explanation she promised would unravel a lifetime of trust, betrayal, and hidden secrets, and that the house was only the tip of a much darker iceberg. Asterisk. I had barely finished my morning coffee when she leaned forward, her eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my heart race. "Amy, it's time you knew the truth," she said, her voice unusually steady, almost cold. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. The words had a weight I couldn't yet measure. "What truth, Beta? What are you talking about?" I asked, though a small voice in my head whispered warnings I didn't want to hear. She took a deep breath, placing her hands neatly on the table, as if preparing for a performance. "This house, everything you've worked for, it's been in your name all along. I know because I've checked, and I think it's time I claim it." I froze. The teacup trembled slightly in my hands. My own daughter, demanding what was rightfully mine. It felt surreal, like the room itself had shifted. My heart pounded with disbelief. "Beta, this isn't a game. This house has always been mine, your father's and mine. You know that," I whispered, trying to maintain control over my rising panic. Her lips curved into a faint, almost mocking smile. "I know, Amy, that's why I can ask. You see, I've been planning this for months, maybe years. I just didn't think it was fair that you..." My mind raced. The subtle glances she had given me, the whispered comments about money and inheritance, the questions she had been asking about legal papers. It all started making sense, and yet it hurt more than I could have imagined. "Amy, I don't mean to hurt you, I just want what I deserve," she continued, her tone unnervingly calm. "I've waited patiently, and now it's my turn." Anger, shock, and a bitter sadness swelled in me. How could she justify this? I had raised her with love, sacrificed for her, and yet she treated my devotion as weakness, my trust as opportunity. I pressed my hands to my face, struggling to steady my voice. "Beta, I gave you everything so you wouldn't have to feel the hunger, the struggle, the weight of life like I did. How can you ask me to hand over our home?" Her gaze softened for a split second, almost imperceptibly. Then it hardened again. "Amy, it's not about the house. It's about respect, about showing you that I'm capable, that I can take what I've earned, even if it means taking it from you." I swallowed hard, realization dawning slowly and painfully. This wasn't just a demand. It was a test, a challenge, a betrayal carefully orchestrated, hiding ambition behind the mask of filial respect. I wanted to speak, to reason, to cry, but the words caught in my throat. My chest ached with a mixture of love, fear, and disbelief. Then she placed a folder on the table, the edges crisp and clean. My eyes widened, documents, receipts, proof. She had prepared everything. Every argument she might face, every justification, all neatly compiled, ready to confront me. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. The daughter I had nurtured, the child I had believed innocent, had transformed into someone calculating, patient, and unflinchingly determined. Mini cliffhanger. I looked at her, my own blood, and whispered, barely audible, Beta, what have you done? And in that moment, I realized that the morning's shock was only the beginning and that the house was not the only thing at stake. The folders sat on the table between us like a battlefield, neat edges hiding the storm it contained. My daughter's eyes were steady, almost daring me to challenge her. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. Beta, this isn't how families speak. You don't demand, you don't plot, you don't try to take what's mine like this. My voice trembled, caught somewhere between rage and despair. She tilted her head, as if measuring the weight of my words. Amy, I'm not taking what's yours. I'm claiming what I've earned. I've waited, I've prepared, and I'm ready. You should understand that, earned, I repeated, disbelief burning through my chest. Do you think patience, love, and trust are debts you can cash in? You were raised by me, guided by me, nurtured. And now this is how you repay me. Her lips pressed into a thin line, unflinching. It's not about repayment, Amy, it's about fairness. About showing that I can stand on my own, even if it means taking control of this house. I felt a wave of anger crash over me. My own child, speaking like an adversary instead of the little girl I had cradled. The teenager I had worried over, the young woman I had protected. Everything I had given her, every sacrifice, seemed to vanish in her words. I gave you everything: education, comfort, love. And this is what I get. My voice cracked, tears threatening to spill. She leaned forward slightly, almost imperceptibly. Amy, don't cry. This isn't about hurting you. I need you to see me as capable. Respect me for what I'm doing. Respect. The word stung more than betrayal. How could I respect someone who planned and plotted to take from me? How could I reconcile the daughter I loved with this stranger sitting across the table? Beta, do you understand what you're asking? You're asking me to hand over our home, our security, our life's work. And for what? Because you say you're ready? I whispered, voice low, trembling with disbelief. Her expression softened, for just a moment. Yes, Amy, that's exactly why. And I'll prove it. I've prepared everything. The documents, the accounts, all legal, all clear. It's ready. I felt my chest tighten, the room closing in. My daughter, my own child, had crossed a line I didn't think possible. Yet in her eyes, I saw no malice, only determination. A cold clarity I hadn't seen before. I wanted to yell, to cry, to beg her to stop, but words failed me. The room was silent, heavy with tension, broken only by the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. And then, as if daring me, she placed her hand on the folder, her eyes locking with mine. Amy, this is the truth. It's time you accept it. I'm ready. The room spun. I realized the confrontation wasn't just about the house. It was about trust, respect, love, and betrayal. And it was now a test of my own strength whether I would fight back, or let this carefully laid plan succeed. Mini cliffhanger. I swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the table, and whispered, barely audible, Beta, if this is the game you want, then so be it, but don't think I'll go down without a fight. I sat back in my chair, heart racing, staring at the folder my daughter had prepared. Each paper felt like a dagger aimed at the trust I had given her. Yet as I flipped through the documents, something caught my eye: a series of notes, signatures, and timestamps that didn't quite add up. A chill ran down my spine. For all her preparation, she had left a thread of truth exposed, something she hadn't anticipated. My mind sharpened, focus returning with the clarity of someone who had spent decades navigating life's challenges. I whispered under my breath, Beta, you've been clever, but not clever enough. I began cross-checking the documents, tracing back every account, every transaction she had included. Slowly, patterns emerged, errors too precise to be coincidences, slight mismatches in dates, missing notarizations, and overlooked clauses in agreements. She had assumed I would act blindly, that I would hand over the house without question. A surge of adrenaline and clarity hit me. This wasn't just about the house. It was about power, control, and testing me. And now I had the advantage. I gathered the papers, double-checking everything, and found the key piece of evidence, a legally binding loophole she had failed to seal, something I could use to protect what was mine and expose her ambition. My mind raced. I could confront her directly, let her see that I knew, or I could plant her in the tables, let her overplay her hand, and ensure that her actions had consequences she couldn't ignore. That afternoon, I called her into the study. The house was quiet, sunlight streaming through the windows. casting long shadows over the floor, a perfect stage for what was about to unfold. She entered with her usual calm, smiling faintly, confident that her plan would succeed. "Amy, I see you've been looking at the documents," she said, attempting to gauge my reaction. I smiled back, calm, collected, though my pulse thrummed beneath my skin. "Yes, Beta, and I've discovered something very interesting." Her eyes flickered just slightly, but I saw it. A crack in her confidence, a tremor of unease. "You see," I continued, "these papers, they aren't as complete as you thought. There are missing notarizations, errors in dates, and loopholes you assumed I wouldn't notice." Her smile faltered. "Amy, I can explain." I held up my hand, stopping her. "No need to explain. You've underestimated me. You've been preparing, planning, and assuming that I would comply. But I know everything now." The room was heavy with silence. I could see the tension build, her calm demeanor unraveling piece by piece. I leaned closer, voice low but firm. "Beta, this house, this family, the trust we share, you cannot take by force or manipulation. You tried, yes, but you forgot one thing: love and patience have their own power. And now, your ambition will meet the truth." Her jaw tightened. But I knew the realization had begun to dawn. She had misjudged me. Her careful planning, her confidence, her sense of control, all slipping away with every word I spoke. Mini cliffhanger. I closed the folder slowly, letting the weight of my presence and the truth settle in. "Beta, it's time for you to see the consequences of underestimating your own mother." The study felt like a battlefield. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, casting long, harsh shadows across the floor. My daughter stood stiffly, papers clutched in her hands, her confidence wavering with every passing second. She had thought she was the one in control, but now, the balance had shifted. I leaned against the desk, calm but unwavering. "Beta, it's time to understand what happens when ambition overshadows respect. When greed masks love, consequences follow." Her eyes flickered, a mixture of fear and defiance. "Amy, you can't just..." I interrupted, my voice steady. "Because I have proof. Every transaction, every error, every attempt to manipulate, it's all here." I held up the folder, letting the sunlight glint off the papers. "You underestimated me. And now, it's your turn to be confronted with truth." She faltered, her composure slipping. "Amy, this isn't fair." I echoed sharply. "Do you think taking what isn't yours is fair? Do you think hiding your intentions behind a smile and expecting me to trust blindly is fair?" Her lips trembled. I saw the first flicker of regret in her eyes. She had prepared for confrontation, but not like this, not with evidence laid bare, not with me standing firm, not with the weight of decades of wisdom and love behind my voice. I took a step closer. "Beta, do you see now? Your actions, your plans, your words, they can't erase the years of trust, love, and sacrifice that built this family. You tried to destroy it. But you forgot one thing. A mother's instinct is never wrong, and a mother's patience has limits." She swallowed hard, her hands shaking as she tried to gather the scattered papers. "Amy, I just wanted," I thought, I said, voice rising slightly, but not in anger, more in disbelief. "You thought it was right to manipulate your own mother. You thought I wouldn't notice your lies. Your intentions weren't innocent. They were calculated, and now, you must face that truth." I watched as the color drained from her face, the carefully constructed mask of confidence crumbling. She realized her victory had been snatched away before she even stepped fully into it. I leaned in, voice soft but piercing. "Beta, respect is earned, not taken. Trust is given, not stolen, and love cannot be manipulated. You wanted the house. You wanted control. But what you never understood is that loyalty, honesty, and integrity are more powerful than ambition." Her shoulders slumped, her gaze dropping to the floor. For the first time, I saw vulnerability, not the confident, scheming girl I had been facing all morning, but the human beneath. "Amy," she whispered, barely audible. "Yes, Beta," I said, letting the tension hang, allowing her to feel the weight of her choices. I'm sorry," she breathed, voice cracking. "I didn't mean to, you didn't mean to hurt me, but you did," I said gently, softening my tone now. "And that's why this lesson is necessary. You must learn that actions have consequences, and intentions must align with respect. She nodded slowly, tears spilling over. I understand, Amy. I truly do. I stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. It's not too late, Beta, you can make amends. You can choose honesty and love over schemes. That's the real power you need to embrace. Her tears fell freely now, the tension in the room dissolving into a mixture of relief and regret. She had faced the storm she had created and survived it. Humbled and enlightened. Mini cliffhanger, emotional payoff. As we embraced, I knew that this confrontation had not only saved our family but also restored the bond that ambition had tried to sever. The house, the inheritance, and our trust remained intact because justice, patience, and truth had prevailed. The house felt lighter that evening, as if the tension and deceit that had weighed on every corner had finally been lifted. Sunlight filtered softly through the windows, painting warm streaks across the polished floor. For the first time in weeks, the air seemed free of anger, fear, and suspicion. I sat with my daughter at the dining table, a quiet calm settling between us. The folder of documents that had caused so much turmoil now lay closed, its presence a reminder of lessons learned and battles fought. Amy, she whispered, voice tentative. I never realized how much I hurt you. I was so focused on what I wanted, I didn't see what I was risking: our bond, our trust. I reached out, placing a hand over hers. Beta, it's not just about the house or the documents. It's about respect, love, and understanding. You've learned that now, and that's what matters. Her eyes glistened with tears. But this time there was no fear or defiance, only remorse and the quiet hope of rebuilding. I promise, I will never let ambition blind me like this again, she said, voice firm. I want to earn your trust back. Every day. I smiled softly, the warmth of her words reaching deep into my heart. That's all I ever wanted, to see you grow into a woman who values integrity as much as success. We spent the evening talking, recounting every moment of the confrontation, every choice and every revelation. Laughter slowly returned, mingled with tears, as the walls of the house absorbed the healing energy that had been missing for so long. Later, my son called from his office, checking in. His voice, full of relief and pride, made my chest swell. Amy, I'm glad everything is settled. You handled it brilliantly. Not alone, Beta, I said. Together, we protected this family, and that's the strength that counts. As night fell, the house seemed transformed, not by renovations or wealth, but by truth, courage, and the rekindling of familial bonds. I walked through the rooms, each step echoing like a promise that love, respect, and honesty would guide us forward. The next morning, we invited the extended family over, not to relive the conflict, but to celebrate the lessons learned. Conversations were warm, smiles genuine, and hugs heartfelt. Everyone could feel the shift. The tension that had once hung like a heavy curtain had been lifted. I caught my daughter's eye, and she gave me a small, sincere smile. It was a smile of understanding, of reconciliation, of a young woman realizing the value of the guidance she had once taken for granted. Finally, I stood by the window, looking out at the garden bathed in morning light. A sense of renewal filled me. The storm had passed, and in its place was clarity, peace, and a renewed sense of purpose. Betrayal had tested us, but it had also strengthened the bonds that truly mattered. For the first time in years, I felt unstoppable, not because I had power over anyone, but because our family had emerged stronger, wiser, and united. The past no longer held us hostage. The future was ours to shape. As I took a deep breath, I realized this was more than an ending. It was a new beginning, a chapter of love, trust, and unbreakable family bonds. And in that moment, I knew no deception, no ambition, and no betrayal could ever take that away. Mini cliffhanger / emotional takeaway. Sometimes, the hardest battles reveal the deepest love. And when truth, courage, and respect guide us, every ending can become a new beginning.